Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. So, Andrew, you wanted to talk about automation, trends you see going on in the agency world, and big data. How does that all come together?
Yeah, so I think everyone obviously is talking about AI, and AI is like a subtopic of automation when it comes to at least agencies and SEO or in-house SEO as well. And it was interesting. I was talking to a big SERP data provider a couple of nights ago, and they said every agency they're talking to is working on some kind of automated analytics solution for dealing with large data sets. And so I was happy to hear that because we've been working on stuff like that for a couple of years. And our theory being that right now, if you're dealing, let's say, with small businesses, you don't need a ton of data to make decisions. But the minute you get more than a handful of locations, you have to start looking at things at scale, and looking at things at scale like search results across hundreds of thousands of keywords in different markets. You can't just get a data dump from SEMrush. You need to actually have systems in place to kind of look at that stuff at scale and be able to basically figure out a way to get actionable insights from it. So I was kind of very encouraged to hear that a lot of agencies are working on that. My thinking is, if you don't have a developer or two on staff right now and you're an agency or even an in-house person and you're doing SEO for more than a handful of sites or a handful of businesses, you need to kind of rethink that.
I heard there's a lot of ex-Microsoft, Meta, and Twitter engineers available this week.
That's word on the street. Yeah, exactly. They're going to be a little expensive for us cheap agency owners, but I think it's really where you're going to get a competitive advantage over time.
Just a quick, I don't want to digress too much, but you triggered a thought. I was watching a video on TikTok, and this was a guy who was giving advice, presumably to laid off Microsoft, Twitter, Google employees. Right. And he was saying, you were making $400,000 to $500,000 as a senior developer or as a senior engineer before, and now you have to be willing to take a $250,000 job.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what a distorted environment that we're all living in. But back to your point. So what would be your advice to agencies? I mean, you're saying develop these tools, have developers accessible. I mean, it really feels like we are entering into a new world. I mean, you're talking about longstanding issues with multi-location businesses, but with all the AI stuff, it really, really feels to me like we're on the cusp of a new way of working across the board. Whether these tools deliver against the promise or not is a different question, but just it's a kind of
we're fortunate because we have a developer who's skilled in AI and machine learning, and so we're jumping on the bandwagon like everyone else, and we're right now trying to figure out the right process for putting AI into our workflows. So as an example, we're going to do roll out a test next week, in fact, to a multi-location business where we're going to update about 1,000 location pages using partially using AI to kind of do it at scale to see if we can do something that's helpful and scalable. So, and then the trick is actually getting really good at modeling and prompting, and then really good at editing. And so I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, AI is going to kill all these jobs," and I'm like, "It's not. I think it's going to for writers. I think it's going to shift the burden from actually writing 500 words to editing 500 words and getting really good at prompting these systems." So I think there's a lot of knowledge to be gained because it'll enable us to implement stuff quicker. So as an example, for 1,000 pages, if I wanted to have human beings write that, it would probably take.
You're talking about landing pages?
Yeah. It would probably take our standard thing is like 30 days. So I'd have to go and find X number of writers who could, first we'd have to create a brief, like this is how you do it. Then we'd have to like assign it out to a bunch of different writers, and then we'd have to edit it. So that would take, let's say, 30 days. But now I can create the brief and I have the system and I can do it in less than a week now, that, and because the editing is a cakewalk, right? It's the writing that's the hard part. So I think this is gonna, for people who are kind of know how to figure this stuff out, I think it's going to enable us to iterate faster, which is really, for SEO at least, is like the key to success is iteration and testing. And for these big sites, iteration and testing at scale is what's going to move the needle.
Yeah, I wonder about the sort of generic quality of, editing is the important point here, but I wonder about the sort of the generic quality of the copy that'll come out of these systems.
So we wonder about that too. So there's a couple of things we've learned so far about it. So it's all about what you train the model on. So as an example, if you just take GPT-3 and use it, it's going to suck, or it'll be okay. It'll be what I call a clever idiot, right? But these aren't like, we're not writing Shakespeare type pages. But if you train, let's say, the model on, I don't know, Home Depot's location pages, right? Or the top location pages that rank for the search queries you want to rank for, you're going to get a much better indication, you're going to get there faster. And then you've got to also anticipate, all these AI checkers. And so you've got to dumb down the writing. So as an example, I think Google recommends you write in the US at least, I think it's like for 8th grade audience.
For a 2nd grade audience?
I think it's 8th grade, but 2nd grade makes sense or something. But so anyhow, so we're like, okay, we're going to write for a 6th grade and really try to dumb it down.
I don't even know what that means exactly. I mean, you can simplify it, but I mean, there's no way to calibrate that to some reading level.
Oh, it's all like a score. There's tools that will score your grammar.
It's based on sentence length, word vocabulary. Yeah. There are tools.
Yeah.
That do that.
So everyone's like, oh, Google will figure this out. And I don't think Google will figure a lot of things out. And this isn't done necessarily to trick Google. This is done so we could write good stuff at scale.
Sure.
Hopefully that's the goal at least. But I can tell you, like, we've launched template-driven pages like insert keyword and other keyword here, and it's basically the same thing. And I'm thinking of one site we did this last summer, and I would say it's not that it's bad content. It's just that it's not like amazing
There's no personality.
content.
But it performs well.
Like, it's their fastest growing page type. And so
exactly.
Google,
and part of that is
Google
because the search query silo is localized. And so Google's not comparing that localized page against some other localized search query silo. It stands out in that context as an adequate page.
In this case, this isn't a local query. It's a national query. It's like e-commerce queries. So think of it like, I don't know, we sell, I don't know, Ford cars that are green, right? And Ford cars that are red. It's really the kind of the dumbest form of smart content. And it's anyhow. So my point is that Google still has a hard time dealing with non-AI driven kind of lowbrow content. So it's I'm not convinced that it's suddenly going to figure out all this AI stuff. And again, if you're doing it just to make the page good, not to make it so it's kind of like a spun thing that sucks, like I don't see why Google should care.
Well, right. I mean, I think it's an interesting philosophical question, because Google is going to have to deal with this. It's already happening, and it's just going to get more and more and more. And they don't explicitly say AI is verboten. They say automated content. They sort of dance around it, and they imply that if there's enough human intervention, then it's going to be fine. But I don't know how they're going to know, other than some scoring methodology, like some of the tools that exist today.
I think the language was, if it's useful to the users, it's valuable. Google's going to appreciate it, which means that they can measure that, because if people hit that.
Well, is that behavioral signals? Is that behavioral signals?
Yeah, they can measure.
I mean, that's just.
You can see that in the the index, they measure those signals. And everybody thinks Google does as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there were some articles that pointed to some Larry Page comments that suggested behavioral signals were being considered at least early on.
My pet theory is that they put a marker in their algorithm the day ChatGPT 3 came out, and they're evaluating any page that was updated after that with some new thing. To say, okay, because I mean there was AI stuff before that, but now
Jasper.
It's probably a contagion, right?
Well, there are just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tools now. It seems like every day I'm seeing like, here are the 50 top things, and here's the, it just seems like it's proliferating, like
amazing.
Mushrooms after some, rainstorm.
But they're all just GPT-3, like with a little logo on top, right?
Well, so
do you think there'll be a new job title, Andrew? That person who constructs GPT queries?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what I was discussing with someone yesterday. Is it like image? Like I don't know if you played around with Midjourney or any of those image AI things. They're kind of I'm obsessed with them a bit, and that's all about learning how to prompt them. And so I could see like going to Upwork and being like, I need 1,000 images, and there's a guy like, I am an expert AI prompter for images, and
VP of AI prompting.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely true. There's an Anthropic, which is a competitor to OpenAI, which was formed by some ex-OpenAI people, and they have their tool is called Claude. They've got a ton of jobs on their site, and they have one of them. I think I forget the title. I'm not looking at it. It's like a prompt engineer or something. It's And so they've created a formal job title, and they have the pay range there, and I think it's like $300K for somebody who's just going to sit there and prompt and prompt and prompt and prompt.
It's the best job. Check out promptbase.com. That's a prompt marketplace. Like it's
people selling prompts.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Like, hey, like this is how you build a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger in AI or something. Like, here you go.
Right. There'll be these prepackaged prompts for, but so then does the output then become is the prompt the intellectual property that then turns the outcome into the property of the person who wrote the prompt?
I don't know.
Unanswered.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.